What's going on, guys? This is Travis C here, and today we have some very exciting news. We have been offered a spot in a league, so someone dropped out after week one, and we've been able to take over their team. So this is a bit of a draft analysis video for the Paldean Battle Academy. Logo will pop up on the screen. So I inherited a team that had some really top tier threats like Great Tusk and Spectria, um, but it was very top heavy. There was lots of the points were spent on the top part of the draft and not as much balance throughout. So I swapped some things around and ended up with a team that I'm pretty happy with. So this will be coming out weekly, sort of when I can. These videos are going to be pretty chill, low budget, just what I can manage while I'm working a lot in New Zealand. But in the meantime, means I get some chance to play some Draft League again, so that's super fun. And starting off our experiences with Gen 9 Draft, we have Manny the Great Tusk, named after the mammoth from Ice Age. Great Tusk does what Great Tusk does. It's bulky, it spins, it hits hard, it sets up rocks. Perfect roll compression, great start to a draft. Second up, we have Ohio Food, because they're eating the dogs, they're eating the cats, etc. in Springfield, Ohio. Masquerada. So this is a really good offensive pivot mon. Obviously with Protean, just hits pretty hard on that physical side. Good range of move coverage. And hazard support as well with spikes and T-spikes. So really got good hazards early on with those first two, or those two picks that I inherited, I guess. But after that we started making some changes, and one of the things I really have wanted to use in draft for as soon as I found out it existed is Iron Crown. So people who've been following me for a little while know that I love Cobalion, and this is like the, I guess, side grade, upgrade Cobalion. A lot of people would say upgrade. I'd argue Cobalion still has a niche to fill, but either way, Iron Crown, super good bulky pivot, with good special offense as well to tie into that. Between that and Masquerada, we can kind of pivot around and get into some of our more offensive threats. It's also got some niche setup capabilities, so a pretty solid mon all around. It's just like an upgraded Jirachi, really, from the good old days. Next, another pick we inherited, but I couldn't bring myself... Oh, Thatcher, the nickname, of course, because Iron Crown, Margaret Thatcher was the Iron Lady of the UK, which in my mind, when it's like a court case, it's that versus the crown, so Thatcher, it makes sense. Next is Flamoyed, because it's a flaming Samoyed, the Arcanine. Couldn't bring myself to drop it. I inherited it and I was like, it's staying on the team, and this is going to be our first Terra captains. This can Terra into either grass or normal. So the way this league works, you've got a budget for the mons that you draft, and then you have a separate Terra budget with a separate tier list. And so depending on how expensive it is to Terra a mon, they have different numbers of Terra types. So Arcanine, our first Terra captain, and Terra normal E-speed is super fun. Terra Grass is great for defensive coverage. You can become a grass type that's immune to fire with Flash Fire. And you can run it bulky, you can run it offensive. It's just a great mon. Really good support to have around. And Terra normal banded E-speed can just win games. So we're going to do that occasionally. Another Terra captain is Miles the Araquanid, because the shiny Araquanid goes all purple, like Miles Morales from Spider-Man, that I'm sure many of you are familiar with. So Araquanid provides a few really good things, sticky webs, and then just clicking water type moves and doing lots of damage. And pretty good bulk. So with Terra options for Araquanid, we have water to just get big hits off with Terra Water Liquidation, and then Steel and Ghost to try and capitalize on getting those webs up. Steel to either become more defensive and hard to take down. Ghost, if I want to set up webs on a spinner, I can then spin block it immediately afterwards. Last Terra Captain is Kilowattrel, which is the gold mine, because a kilowatt is 1,000 joules per second, and if I got 1,000 joules per second, I'd be very rich. So it's a gold mine. Also, it's like a seagull, and there's the seagulls from Finding Nemo that are constantly squawking, mine, mine, mine. So, you know, that works. Uh, I was inspired to use this thing by Uzi Gunner, watching him tear through the PPL with it and win a championship with it, as well as the previous experience we've had with Kilowattrel. The thing is just a budget Sun DT, um, and with Terra, it hits super hard. So our two Terra options are flying, so I don't have to risk a Hurricane miss potentially, and water, because again, water type that's immune to electric is pretty handy, and it gives it a coverage move to hit certain niche options, certain ground types, for example, like Iron Treads or Excadrill, um, things that might be happy to switch into its other dual stabs, Terra Water can help with. So that's Kilowattrel for you. Next up, we have Mence Raider the Salamence. Uh, Salamence has always been good. It gives me another Intimidator, so I can Intimidate cycle if I want to. I imagine most opponents are going to bring Clear Amulet and Adrenaline Orb because of that, but that's fine. Salamence is just more bulky offense setup. It's sat in a really good speed tier for me, um, getting just over Iron Crown into that base 100th, and with DD it can go special, it can go physical, it just kind of does good all-around things for this team. A couple of handy resists and another good ground immunity as well. Speaking of ground immunities, we also picked up Azelf, Hal Jordan, because it's the willpower one of the Lake Trio, and Hal Jordan is the Green Lantern. Green Lantern rings forward to willpower, and he's a pilot, and Azelf likes to levitate and fly around. Um, this thing was drafted for two main reasons. One, base 115 speed, super handy. That fit my speed tiers really well, bridging the gap between Salamence and uh, Nyaskarada, so that things have to then speed creep in that range. Uh, and also, these Lake Trio psychic types get all sorts of shenanigan moves. It gets Trick Room, it gets Wonder Room, it gets Magic Room, it gets all sorts of screens, explosion, rocks, weird moves, and I love having that as an option in draft because you never know when Wonder Room is just going to play out perfectly against your opponent and they won't have anything for it. So that's kind of fun. Maybe you can, Wonder Room take down a Blissey with a Psychic or something. Next up, to make sure that Great Tusk wasn't the only spinner on the team, I picked up Blastoise. Yes, this team does have three water types, but that's fine because water types are just good. Um, Blastoise got a huge buff getting access to Shell Smash, which makes it, in my opinion, much more viable in draft because now it's not just a bulky spinner, it can also go on the offensive. But for the love of God, Game Freak, give this thing Mega Launcher. Rain Dish is just not useful. Um, except on very, very niche rain teams. But if they just gave this the base Blastoise Mega Launcher, Shell Smash would become insane. Or if Megas come back in Legends ZA, if Mega Blastoise makes a comeback and gets Shell Smash, I am drafting that thing straight away. It's going to be so good. Yeah, spin, bulky water that actually acts like a bulky water, whereas I feel like Araquanid acts more like a offensive water. And similarly, next offensive water, oh, and it's Roshi because of Master Roshi from DBZ, is Felxipia. Felxipia? I need to work out how I'm going to pronounce that. This is the name of a siren from Greek mythology because that's what Primarina is in my mind. Um, this is another one of the mons I inherited, and it was nice to inherit a fairy. There wasn't really a better fairy available to swap out for, and Primarina is just a pretty solid mon in of itself. So it gives us that third water type, good fairy to take on those dragon types, good special offense, some interesting move options, um, momentum with flip turn, which is really handy. I've got a lot of momentum on this team. Flip turn on like 3 different mons, U-turn on a couple of Volt Switch, which is really handy for pivoting in to some of your threats, like your wall breakers. And yeah, it just kind of fits synergistically, means we now have a nice Fairy Dragon Steel core, we have Fairy Water Grass core, we have lots of useful options with this team. And then the last one is the budget pick is Freezer, the Hisuian Quillfish. So it's Freezer because when it's shiny, it's got that Freezer-esque color scheme. And this is actually the first shiny I caught in Scarlet and Violet, full odds shiny as well. I was just running around on the Indigo disc and saw it out of the corner of my eye and did like a full 180 and was like, oh my god, is that a shiny Quillfish? Because I love original Quillfish. I've used it in draft before. It has, it's one of those mons that's like for a budget pick really fills a few important roles and can actually have really good matchups some weeks. Um, and so Hisuian Quillfish, similarly, budget pick fits pretty much the same role. Um, has interesting options for abilities with Swift Sim and Intimidate. It's a spike stacker, um, does solid damage, and yeah, just a nice thing to round out the team so I don't feel like I have to bring spikes on Masquerada if I want them. And that's going to be the team. So uploads for this will be uh, whenever I can. uh, so I'll try to do every week. Obviously, we're 1 week behind, so we'll start with week 2 just because that game was already played. Um, and yeah, it's going to be pretty laid back. I'll do the occasional mock, but I'm not going to get as invested in this as I used to in draft. So we might lose a couple more games. We might not have as detailed a prep on some weeks where I just go 252, 252 because I can't be bothered optimizing an EV spread, but we're here for a bit of fun, and I think that this draft is going to be super fun. It's got a couple of mons I'm really keen to use, like Iron Crown and Kilowattrel, and I think it's pretty solid all around. So, yeah, if you're interested in seeing more of this season, feel free to subscribe. I'm keen to be back, and let's see if we can back up our former PPL championship. See ya.